Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Erik and Derek Tiger Football Talk. I'm your host, Derek New. Erik and I are just two Clemson football fans who graduated from Clemson who love nothing more than to talk just a little bit more each week on Clemson football, because why not, right? So this week we're here to break down number 3 Clemson, who's sitting at 8-1 against Virginia Tech, sitting at 4-5. This is the last game of the schedule for us before the ACC championship, and we need to win it essentially in order to get into the ACC championship, depending on the Miami game. Erik, can you give us a brief overview of kickoff time, station, spread, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, man. Number 3 Clemson 8-1 versus Virginia Tech 4-5. 7:30 p.m. kickoff on ABC. Kirk Herbstreit and the crew is going to be calling our game. I don't know how we got a prime time matchup out of this one, but I'll take it. Yeah, spread's 21.5 right now in Clemson's favor. Over under 66.5. We're at Virginia Tech, and it's going to be a cold one, and Virginia Tech at home, last game of the season, is always kind of interesting. As a Clemson fan, it always kind of makes you nervous that we got to win this one to get in, basically, because Miami's sitting there with one loss to us, kind of knocking at the door, waiting to see if Clemson has any mistakes. But you know what? It's the orange britches game. We're breaking out the orange pants. It's championship mode. I'm excited to see our Tigers somewhat more healthy going into Virginia Tech and taking on this team Saturday night.
I love the special uniforms that we have at Clemson. It's like the purple, the orange breeches. Like, we just make it such a big deal. And I love all the pageantry of college football, especially with Clemson. Virginia Tech, they started off hot. They started off 3-1. They look like, ACC championship game could have been a possibility back in September and October. But unfortunately, they've lost 4 of their last 5, including 3 straight losses. I guess my kind of question is, if they lose this game to Clemson, this is a primetime game, and they lose it badly in front of the entire country, does the head coach of Virginia Tech, Justin Fuente, keep his job? Because he's had, I believe, 3 seasons there, and not really much to show for it.
Look, when Justin Fuentes was hired, I was really excited about this hire. He kind of felt to me like a Dabo-ish type energy guy, for this team. He came in with a pretty good team that Beamer left him. So I felt like it was kind of on the up and up for Virginia Tech. And I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that the last 3 years have been what they have been. I don't think that this is a hot seat job for him. Not right now, at least. You've got a first-year defensive coordinator in Justin Hamilton. You got COVID and 2020 in general just being a weird year. I mean, they started off 3-1 and then hit a cold spell. There's been games that have been canceled and rescheduled. Do I think he's at risk of losing his job in the near future? Yeah, definitely. I mean, he definitely needs to do something to turn this program around. But I don't think that this game against the number 3 team looking to, stamp its ticket to the ACC championship and hopefully after that the college football playoff, a number 3 ranked team that's 8-1 right now, I don't think that this loss or this game really has any impact on his job moving forward this year.
The thing is, a lot of the ACC is used to getting curb stomped by Clemson. Even Florida State, that's a proud football tradition. Man, they've not been competitive in 5 years. And they bowed out this year to avoid the exact same thing. Boston College, Syracuse, all these teams, Georgia Tech, they're used to getting curb stomped by Clemson. Virginia Tech fans are not. Virginia Tech fans are not used to, if we win this game 65-17, something ridiculous, Virginia Tech fans are going to be like, oh, I can't believe we did that, when in reality, Clemson should win by that much. If you look at how good this team is versus Virginia Tech, this is not a fan base that is used to losing badly on the big stage. This is a fan base with a lot of pride. And Justin Fuente, last year, they lost the last 2 games of the year, including to the rival Virginia. This year, if they lose 4 straight, 5 of 6, I don't know what the recruiting class looks like, but I would be hard-pressed to think that's in the top 25. The only thing that might save him is they just announced that there's budget cuts for sports programs at Virginia Tech. So maybe they just don't have enough money to buy out the rest of his contract. But to me, this is a savior job moment for Justin Fuente. And he doesn't need to win. He just needs it to be a respectable game, almost just within the spread. If he loses his 41-19, 41-20, I think that's fine. But if they get blown out like Clemson has been blowing out everybody else, I think we're talking about a different story.
Yeah, and I think Virginia Tech's trouble this year is they're very one-sided on offense. They're rush heavy. They average 250 yards on the ground per game. In wins, they're averaging over 318 yards per game. Unfortunately, when they rush for under 200 yards, they're losing those games. And like you said, they started 3-1, then they lost the next 4 out of 5. People probably started watching film, realizing they were a run-heavy team, and they loaded the box. And unfortunately, their QB, Hendon Hooker, he's dual threat, but he's more of a rushing quarterback. I mean, he's second on the team in terms of rushing, and he's only thrown for 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. I mean, 9 touchdowns for a quarterback this late in the season is pretty much telling of what this offense is doing. And I don't know that that's fixed quickly. I mean, unless they've got some top QB coming in, they're going to be a one-sided offense moving forward, and they're going to have trouble when defenses can stop the run against them.
Yeah, I was looking at this game. I was like, man, 1,300 yards. And I was like, maybe he was out for a couple. And they're like, back quarterback has a couple of yards thrown in there. I'm like, it feels like DJ threw for 1,300 yards in 2 games. I know he didn't, but it just feels that way. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna play a game with you though. It's called Hendon Hooker or Travis Etienne. So, Erik, who has more rushing yards on the year? The quarterback for Virginia Tech or Travis Etienne?
I'm going to go Hendon Hooker on this just because I know how dismal Etienne's numbers have been this year.
So this is a bait question. It is actually Travis Etienne, which is good. He has 694 versus the quarterback's got 627. What about yards per carry? Who has that?
Hendon Hooker's probably got that just because he has less carries, I would assume.
Yeah, he's 5.4 versus 5.2. We talked about Travis Etienne being normally 7.0 and above, but this has been a bad year. And then total touchdowns on the year, Hooker, Travis Etienne.
Oh, Etienne's got that in the bag.
Okay, that is true. I mean, obviously, the quarterback's going to have those passing touchdowns, but with running touchdowns, Travis Etienne has 12 versus the 9 from Hooker. I just wanted, but like those stats, 5.4 or 5.2, 9 versus 12, 694 versus 627, those are really similar. This should have been a joke of a game, but it's way too close. If you look at their number 1 running back, Khalil Herbert, he's had a great year. He really started off hot, but he got injured down the stretch. Hopefully he healed up a little bit over the bye week. I would love to see a fresh Khalil Herbert just because I think it's a good test for our defense. We saw what happened against Notre Dame. They were able to run the ball. You look at Virginia Tech, they're not as talented. That line is not as good as Notre Dame. But if we want to see how Clemson is going to do against the run, now that we have Davis and Skalski back in, this is going to be a great test for Clemson up front. They're not as two-dimensional, and they're not going to be able to throw the ball like Ian Book, and I cannot believe I just said those words, Ian Book being... Anyway, but Ian Book can run the ball, and that's what crushed us against Notre Dame is he would scramble for those first downs and just keep the chains moving. So they're one-dimensional, but with their quarterback being able to run the ball on scramble plays, I wonder if that does keep our defense on the field, keep our offense on the sideline, and just enable them to just crank out drives.
Well, I think the big question is going to be how well can Virginia Tech offensive line block? I mean, because that's the big thing that Notre Dame has going for them because they do have a dual threat quarterback, they do have the run game, but not only is Ian Book able to scramble, he's also given time to make reads downfield and throw the ball after 4 seconds, after 8 seconds, after he breaks the pocket. I don't know that the Virginia Tech's offensive line is going to be able to do that. I see Tyler Davis being super disruptive in this. I see our defensive line, and we're probably going to stick with the 3-3-5. I see blitzing, and I see this pocket collapsing on this quarterback. And I think the only way that Virginia Tech beats Brent Venables' pressure defense is quick throws, but I think our DBs are good enough to stick in with their matchups for those first 2 seconds. I mean, where Ian Book gets us and where our DBs kind of break down are these long plays where they're having to guard for 4, 5, 6 seconds, scrambling. Maybe their wide receivers are breaking off their routes. That's when our DBs start failing. I see us loading the box, playing press coverage, and either trying to make them beat us on the ground, which I don't think that they will, or try to beat us with quick passes or maybe some deep shots early. which they might connect on a few of those, but I don't see that, being a lasting blueprint for Virginia Tech moving forward in this game.
Yeah, let's be 100% honest here for a second. Hendon Hooker is probably one of the worst quarterbacks Clemson defense will face this year. There's not a lot of smoke about it. The last few weeks we talked about, Pittsburgh's quarterback has done a great job developing over the last few years, where he was when we beat him up in the ACC championship game. I know he had a terrible showing against Clemson, but on the year, statistically great. Ian Book, another one from Notre Dame. I forget the quarterback's name from Boston College, but something difficult to pronounce. But he's another 4-star guy. Djokovic. So those were really good quarterbacks that we were talking about each week. This is just not one of those quarterbacks. He can't stretch the field, and when you're one-dimensional against a great defense and a great defensive coordinator and a top team at your place, it makes it really difficult. And then I look at what weapons does he have around him, and I'm looking at the wide receiver targets. And yeah, they have some decent options. Trey Turner and Tavion Robinson, they have like 450 and 500 yards throughout the year. Their tight end, James Mitchell, actually leads the team in touchdown catches. But really, it all comes down to Khalil Herbert. Whether he's catching all the ball out of the backfield or running the ball, he should get 1,000 yards on the season this game. I think he's at like 964 or something like that. The quarterback, to me, isn't really even worth talking about that much. The threats, it's Khalil Herbert. Is he 100% in this game? Is he healthy? Is he running at full speed? Then they have a chance to keep it close. If he's getting hit in the backfield and he's averaging 2 yards a carry, this game could be over with by the second quarter.
Well, you talk about one of the worst that we've played all year, and let's talk about Virginia Tech's defense. And Justin Hamilton.
Oh, where do they fall?
Well, yeah, in Justin Hamilton's first year as defensive coordinator, they are 4th worst in the ACC in passing yards given up. They are 4th worst in rushing yards allowed in the ACC. They are 4th worst in giving up 32 points per game. And, oh wait, this one's better, 2nd worst in yards per game. So,
that's worse.
Yeah, I think Virginia Tech has gone in the wrong direction on defense, which is really surprising. I mean, I know Bud Foster retired, and this was kind of his baby and his, one of the most amazing defensive minds in college football. It's unfortunate that this has been a pretty quick turnaround to one of the best defenses in the ACC to one of the worst. They've had some opt-outs. They have a bright spot at corner in Jermaine Waller, but this is going to be a rough night for Virginia Tech's defense against Clemson high-powered offense with most of their weapons back. Yeah,
Caleb Farley, he's I feel like every week we're talking about like somebody first round. I think there's 80 people going in the first round next year based on how everyone's talking. But Caleb Farley, I do believe is a first round pick. He's a CB who opted out this year, and yeah, they could have used him this year. I think they would have had 2 really good corners. You talk about Jermaine Waller. I think he's a bright spot at the corner. But he can't cover the entire field. And when I'm talking about bright spots, like I still don't know if he can hang with even Cornell Powell and how he's playing, or Amari Rodgers. He's good, but he's not going to be a first or second round talent like Caleb Farley. He might be a mid round guy, like 3rd or 4th round, but he's just not quite good enough. I'm looking at the rest of their team, and like Justice Reed leads the team in 6.5 sacks. This is his first year starting, and he's a senior, so it's great he's got that senior leadership. He's also out of Clearwater, Florida, so shouts where I'm from. But it's just, they don't have a ton of talent on this defense. And what really made up the Bud Foster's defense was just discipline. They were so disciplined. They were hard to run against, hard to throw against. People were always where they're supposed to be, clogging up lanes. And this defense is just not really there. It's transitioning, not really transitioning the right direction. And that's why I was curious to see if this is a make it or break it game for Justin. They have a new defensive coordinator. He hasn't had maybe enough time to turn it around, but what you have seen hasn't been great. I know we're just kind of poo-pooing all of Virginia Tech, but this is a team that can run the ball, can't throw the ball, can't stop the run, can't stop the pass, gives up a ton of points, and doesn't force a ton of turnovers. It doesn't necessarily pressure the quarterback particularly well. That's tough. That's tough to game plan for that, even with the bye week they had last week.
Yeah, but in that same token, this is college football, and you just never know. I mean, as a Clemson fan right now, I am nervous for this game. And with everything, all the information we just provided, I shouldn't be nervous at all. I should feel like this is going to be a 70-0 blowout. But it's Virginia Tech at home last game of the year against the number 3 opponent, their last chance for many of these guys to make a statement on this year. You just never know. I mean, there's still talent on that field, and there's still chances for them to come up with a game plan. They had a bye week last week. They've watched a lot of film all year on us to come up with something that maybe we haven't seen. You just don't know. And for Clemson, I mean, Nagata had surgery on that core injury. It was just to relieve some stress on it. They actually say that he might be back by the ACC championship game. Maybe if we go further, by the bowl game or the playoff game. Frank Ladson with the foot is day-to-day. It doesn't sound like he's going to go this weekend. But those are 2 top wide receivers down for this game again. I mean, you said it. Powell's stepped up. EJ Williams has stepped up. Amari's still in there. So we're not lacking at talent. But it'll be interesting to see how we move forward without our top 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, and thankfully we've been moving forward without them, for the last few weeks now.
Fair.
I feel like for this game, it's similar to how I talked about Notre Dame. I believed wrongly that Notre Dame's path to victory is like, listen, they're gonna have to run the ball, shorten the game, take possessions away from our offense, but also like kind of get a lead early. This is not a team that's built for coming back. So they're going to have to, I think they're going to pull out all the stops, pull out all the tricks. Again, Virginia Tech fans, I know they are a proud bunch. They, I believe, think that they can win this game in some way. I think this is going to be, we're going to see a ton of stuff thrown at the Clemson defense that maybe they haven't seen all year. But if you look at it from a stat standpoint, this game was played on Madden. This is a 78-3 game. But that's not how it's played. It's in person. These are real games. This is a Saturday night primetime special. It's supposed to rain on Friday, so I'd be curious if that ends up getting pushed to Saturday or something, and it's just a gross, muggy, wet game. Maybe that can change everything. But for the time being, it's supposed to be gorgeous and beautiful and cold. But yeah, tough matchup.
Yeah, and what I'm looking for in this game is it's going to be cold. It's going to be probably our first cold game, night game away that we've played this season. And, those are elements that kind of go into this and seeing how people react to that. Like you said, I think we got to come out hot. I think we got to set the tone. I think we got to score early. I think our defense needs to kind of settle in early and not give up any big chunk plays like we did at Notre Dame on the first drive. And if we do that, I think we've got this kind of in the bag, even if we falter, even if we have these weird second and third quarter stalls. I think as long as we set the momentum early, we'll be fine. What I'm looking for in this game is a statement. That we are ready. This is championship mode, orange britches. Let's stamp our ticket to the ACC championship, and let's make a statement that College Football Playoff Committee believes that we are top 3, top 2, top 1 team in the nation, and Trevor Lawrence can continue his Heisman race as being the best quarterback in the league.
Couldn't agree more with everything you just said. I'm looking for a barometer to set against Notre Dame in this game. We've talked so much about how this is the poor man's Notre Dame. They love to run the ball. They have a mobile quarterback. I'm simplifying this, obviously. But, we have a depth at our on our defensive line. KJ Henry, Xavier Thomas, Miles Murphy, Brian Brzee are all 5-star talents on our defensive line. I haven't mentioned Tyler Davis yet. All of those people were available in some capacity against Notre Dame. Xavier Thomas was, I think, suspended for the first half of the game, and then Brzee left early. But they were all available, and they still ran for 200 yards against us. What I want to see is Tyler Davis and James Skowski, the 2 players we were really missing on the defense throughout the entire game. How do they impact the running game? Is Tyler Davis blowing through that line, taking up double teams the whole time, getting to the quarterback or the running back in the backfield? Is Skowski just a tackling machine? I want to see if those 2 specifically make a difference in the run game. That gives me hope that a week or 2 later against Notre Dame, that it'll be a different story, that they won't be able to run the ball on us nearly as well. So that's what I'm looking for. It's less about this game. It's more of a barometer to how we're going to stack up against Notre Dame in 2 weeks. I want to move straight into prediction that we just talked about, kind of where we're looking for. We've talked about Virginia Tech's offense and them running the ball, and then their defense kind of struggling. What is your prediction for the game? And just to remind everybody out there, as far as what the spread is 21.5 points. Over-under is 66.5. That's how many points they think both teams are going to combine to score. So the implied final score is like a 44-22 game. That's what the analysts are predicting, especially out in Vegas. Erik, what is your prediction here?
I've got this game similar to last week. I'm a little bit nervous about this game, just being a Clemson fan, knowing that we need to win this game to get in because Miami's kind of like sitting there waiting for us to screw it all up. I've got my prediction at 47-10. I think we go up early. I think Trevor and Etienne and everybody sits the second half. I think they, bust a play here or there. To make it 10, probably, maybe one in the first half, one in the second half, something like that. I think the big thing for me in this game is, can Tony Elliott get Etienne involved in the game? Whether it's running the ball or in the pass game. Honestly, I'd rather it be in the run game. I'd rather us stick with it. There's been too many games this year where we get pass happy because we're playing a defense that's bad against the pass, and we decide, well, Trevor Lawrence is amazing. We have all these weapons. Let's pass it on first down. Let's pass it on second down. Let's pass it on third down. And then we're like, oh shit, we went 3 and out. When Etienne is still rushing for 5.4 yards per carry, that's, you hand the ball off twice, that's a first down. So I think we got to stick with him. I know that our O-line's been struggling, but I would really like to see Etienne run the ball and really get over 100 yards in this game.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think he's been over 100 yards in a few weeks now.
Yeah.
47-10 means that you expect Clemson to cover spread, but the over-under, you're going to pick the under.
I'm going to pick the under. I think it's going to be a cold game. It's Virginia Tech at home. I think, if we go up early, I think our starters sit and rest. So that's why I have it a little bit under.
If you're looking intrinsically, there's a lot of reasons why Virginia Tech should be able to hold in. It's a prideful team. It's a cold night. First time we're really playing Virginia Tech in a while. They're coming off a bye week. Their season hangs on this. Herbert, is healthy. Like all these things that aren't actually in the stat lines. I'm looking at it from just a purely numbers basis. Clemson in December is an absolute juggernaut. It's a machine. This is not a good matchup for Virginia Tech. I'm going big. I think this is a 63-20 game. If they're able to run the ball and shorten it, maybe we don't get up that high. But there's no reason, if we come in focused and prepared for Virginia Tech and not really thinking about the noise and thinking about facing Notre Dame again or anything like that, there's no reason that we should not come in and just demolish this team and really embarrass Virginia Tech on their home turf. So I'm going to go 63-20. I'm taking the over. The over under is 66.5. We might score over that just by ourselves. And then I think we'll cover the spread pretty handedly.
Look, I'm just one more week, and I'm just happy that Clemson's playing football. After that bye week and the Florida State cancellation, I was just really down on the fact that we weren't playing football. So I'm just happy to see our team get out there and play on Saturday, prime time. That's super exciting. But hey, if you like our content, help us out. Like, subscribe. Every little bit helps. We'll try to keep you up to date on all things Clemson football.
Hey, we're right around the corner from the ACC championship game, so tune in this week, cheering your Tigers, and then we're off to another ACC championship, so it'll be fantastic to watch. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on Sunday.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.